There we go. Didn't take the first time. All right. Thank you guys for joining SDA Seattle. We are happy to have you here for our presentation for May. We've got Nancy and Shannon from Compensation Connections as our presenters today. We are recording this seminar, and I will be posting a link on our YouTube channel, and then I'll email that out to the registration. So you'll see that in an email with the slide deck attachment sometime next week. So keep an eye out for that. With no further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it right over to Nancy. You've got control of the board. Take it away.
I like being in control. This is a good thing, right? Okay, so thank you all for having us here today. Shannon and I always enjoy talking about compensation. So we were thinking about how we would want to talk about the slides and the questions that y'all have sent in and that were part of the discussion about what we were going to talk about. And we thought more of a roundtable would be good. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through the slides, and there'll be some questions on the slides. But of course, if you have any questions at all while we're talking, please feel free to put them in the chat. We are going to be kind of switching off. I'm going to start, and then Shannon's going to finish. But we'll both probably answer questions. It's going to be relatively informal, but we're happy to be here and happy to answer questions. So today's topic is compensation reviews, and like I said, we have some of the questions on the slides that we're going to talk about, but just pop it in the chat if you think of something. And got to make sure my mouse is in the right place. There we go. So first question, are employers required to give increases every year, such as a cost of living increase? And the short answer is pretty much no. You know, but there's a much longer answer, as with everything in life. And according to the U.S. Department of Labor, it might be a matter of agreement between the employer and the employee or employee's representative that pay increases happen every year. But we're not required to give pay increases above the FLSA minimum wage, according to the U.S. Department of Labor. However, as some of our clients found out in the last year, it's fairly hard to have people feel motivated or appreciated if they don't get an increase each year, at least something. Some of our clients last year didn't have any money to give an increase, or some of them they needed to give an increase, but they only wanted to stick with what was going on with the economy, so they gave about 1%, and all of them were feeling a little bit worried about turnover, and are people going to feel motivated to stay and do their best work? So it's a yes and no question, as in a couple things that we're going to talk about today. So next question, what are the pros and cons of giving everybody the same increase? Well, here's our thoughts about the pros and the cons of this. Sometimes if you don't have any money to give an increase, then it's a quick decision, right? No, we don't have the money. But if you need to, that certain industries give the same increases every year, sometimes it's just a little easier. Some people do it as a way of determining equity. It's much easier to do, and people don't tend to question if you give everybody the same increase, although it does tend, when you get over to the cons, poor performers get the same reward as the high performers, and it doesn't motivate the high performers. So sometimes you do have a little problem with lack of engagement, sometimes as much as if they didn't get a raise at all. And if anybody who's in the audience who has done annual increases the same to everybody, or what they call cost of living increases, understands that the first year they appreciate it, the second year it's expected, and so on. So that is definitely one of the cons, that it becomes expected. I still don't see, if you have questions, and we really want to see them, so go for it.
Hey Nancy, I'm wondering if anyone else has any other pros or cons that they'd want to
Oh,
add to that.
thank you. I was going to ask
Anything
that.
they've run into.
Let's go back there. Yes. Anybody has practiced this either way? Things that you felt really worked well, or things that it just seemed like it detracted from what you were doing? No? Okay. All right. Well, then see, I showed you the next slide. That was my problem, right? Okay. So the next slide talks a little bit about it kind of goes a little deeper into the pros and cons about doing a merit increase versus a cost of living increase. And like I said, some employers offer cost of living adjustments, and sometimes it's a cost of living plus merit pay. It just kind of depends on the employer. And when we talk about cost of living, we really mean that employee pay gets adjusted annually based on the cost of goods and services in the area where they're living. This chart shows from the last 10 years what the amount of a COLA was every year and what the merit increase amount was either given or recommended in the last 10 years. And you can see there's a big difference and big wide swing in some of these. So what do you see in the chart? Anybody want to pop something in the chat? Carrie said she'd rather have the merit increase. Yes, I believe you. What else? Well, how about the fact that since COLA was more prevalent during the session? Absolutely, that is so true. Yes. How about there's years when the COLAs were a little bit smaller and the merit increases were better? Yeah, COLA has a bigger change than the merit over the years. Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking too. And I don't know, you probably all remember that in the last, since the recession was like 2010, 2011, the recommendation has been very close to or at 3% pretty much every year since then. So sometimes the COLAs come close, sometimes they don't, but the cost of living increases tend to be a little bit more well, when they're based on the cost of wages going up, we don't really have much of a choice. I think that's why the 3% was so consistent, because we were in the middle of a talent war. But sometimes the cost of living increases are a little bit more varied, shall we say, than the merit increase budget percentages. Shannon, you want to say anything about that?
Oh, I was going to mention that, the chart only goes back 10 years. If we go all the way back into the Great Recession, there were a couple of years where the COLA increase, so really the CPI, Consumer Price Index number, was negative. And so it's like for organizations or employees who often just say, well, just give me a COLA increase. I don't want this merit increase stuff. Just give me a COLA increase. It's like, well, do they want a pay cut then for those years where the COLA is in the negative? Like, I don't think so. So it's an interesting dilemma for employers as they process what to do.
Yeah, there's a couple comments in the chat I think are really very helpful. Kurt said, do you know what the current COLA is for Seattle? And truthfully, it depends. Last year especially, it depended on the type of organization. Like a lot of our public sector employers gave somewhere between 1% and 2%. Nonprofit was, if they could afford it, was a little over 2%. And then a lot of other employers just gave the standard 3% they've been giving all along. And as you can see, in the merit increase was 2.8%, and that was pretty standard in the Seattle area in the last year.
Yeah, for merit. And the latest research I saw around CPI change for the Seattle area had us around 3%. From, I think that was March or April 2021 compared to March or April 2020. So seeing that, movement as, hopefully we're in the, the economy opening back up in many ways related to COVID. But a lot of employers didn't, the Seattle economy stayed fairly strong just in general, which is not true across the entire country. So
very true, very true.
Yeah.
And Sherry said a merit increase seems to be more satisfying as far as feedback than getting just a couple. And of course, I absolutely agree with you. And I am one voice. Not everybody feels that way, and a lot depends on the industry and the sector of the economy that you're in as well. And then Sherry also commented they had to do percent cuts across the board when there's a downturn. And I think that the other part of your comment is really important, that employees have been cooperative and understanding. I think it really helps them understand when they see the same thing happening with the owners. I think that's very helpful, as you mentioned. That was a really good point. Okay, so next slide. How do you determine an appropriate increase for a particular employee? Well, there's several reasons for that, right? One of the reasons that you give pay increases is because of the market. So if the performance of the employee is good, you're going to want to make sure you reward them, and that's point number two. And sometimes people give the length of time in the job or the length of time in the organization that's part of the factor of how they give the increase. And one of them takes performance into account, the other one doesn't or doesn't necessarily do it. And if you're giving merit pay, though, you want to use a performance review process to determine the amount of the merit pay, and it's ideally based on both the performance of the employee and their position in the range, so that the people who are high performers but low in the range get caught up a little bit as time goes by. And Sherry mentioned that another factor is benefits offered. There are definitely employers who give very rich benefits and pay maybe at or slightly below market because that's part of their values and part of their culture. Any comment about if your firm has salary ranges aligned with employee grade levels, the employee gets a really small increase because if they got a higher increase, they'd be over the maximum. Yes, and what?
Next slide.
What? Next
That's
slide?
in the next slide, yeah.
Is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm presenting and I don't know that, right? I don't know the order of the slides. Okay, there you go. So part of what Judy's talking about is the people who are near the top of their range. They do get a little bit less even if they're high performers, if they're near the top of the range. So if somebody's been in a job for a very, very long time, like say they're a really high performer and they're in a job that they don't want to be promoted, they really like their job exactly the way it is, and they're outperforming, they're going to get to the top of the range. And then what happens is they get to the top, and the percentage of the range that they would normally get puts them over the top of the range. So my advice usually in situations like that is to make sure that they get the full amount of the range. But that any amount over the top of the range gets paid to them in a lump sum bonus, and then they can still feel appreciated, but not go over the top of the range and not add to the salary budget. And back to the benefits point. Additional vacation or sick or personal days added if the idea is not to increase the benefits, not so much the pay. So that is absolutely true. Other comments about this? I like that you guys are putting stuff in the chat. That's great.
I'm wondering who's using a merit matrix, not necessarily like this where it has like the lower third and the upper third, but at least trying to more directly tie job performance and pay. Or if that's happening in your organization.
And maybe pre-COVID, not necessarily during COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
So by show of hands, no, I'm joking. We do for profit sharing bonuses, but not for salaries. Those are more position based. Okay, that makes sense. So you do a percentage based on performance for the profit sharing? We'll find out. Okay, yes, I interpreted that correctly. So if you've seen this before, how hard has it been to administer? Has it been, there's a lot of calculations involved when you're trying to do this. It involves a lot of spreadsheet work, shall we say. How do you feel about, if you've ever done both, how do you feel about the administration of the merit process, including, not necessarily including the performance part, just the merit increase process versus giving the annual increase the same to everybody? What do you guys feel like is there a downside to the merit process that you've experienced?
Or is there I wonder if most everyone's doing a cost of living adjustment. Oh, Carrie commented.
Oh, both of the comments that are in there are both excellent comments. Carrie says she can see the potential to hit that ceiling and not feel the merit aspect. Yes, that is very possible because it comes as a lump sum. It's it's there and gone, and they already spent it, and now I didn't get any extra money. And it depends on what generation. That's a very good point. Very good point. And Kurt says they gave a flat increase to everybody at a former company and had pooled money for that, and then had a separate pooled money that was given based on merit. And that's a kind of the best of both worlds, where everybody knows they're going to get something, and then if they're high performers, they still get rewarded. We have that conversation many times a year with our clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, next slide. So we talked a lot about how the merit matrix is formalizing the relationship between merit adjustments and job performance. So what do you think that how do people feel about their performance reviews? Well, here's what some of the research has said about how they feel about their performance reviews. So if we're anchoring merit increases to the performance review scores, it's important to consider what employees think about the process and about how we feel about how well it's done, because it does make a difference. So one thing to think about is how objective is the review process at my organization. I literally just had this conversation with a client yesterday. She's a little worried about how a couple of the managers do their reviews, because some managers are they're very effusive in their praise, and they think everybody who works with them is and exceeds. And some managers go the other way, where they want to make sure that they are being as objective as possible. So sometimes they tend to rate a little bit lower. How much confidence do you think the employees have in your performance reviews at your organization? And Shannon's going to discuss the rest of the slides. So, and if any comments about that, feel free to put them in there before we move on. Do you feel like things are go pretty well with your performance reviews? Do you do performance reviews? Number one. Number two, do you feel like they're as objective as possible? Oh, great comment, Sherry. If sporadic or consistent feedback discussions are taking place over the course of the year, any annual review should be no surprise. Yes, wholeheartedly yes. We try to keep performance reviews separate from compensation adjustments. Does that work? Because sometimes people if they've ever had it where they're together, it's kind of hard to not get them to think about it when they're sitting down with you for your performance review. I remember working in one company where when we separated it out, and the first thing anybody said when they sat down was, okay, what's my raise going to be? Even though they were just there to discuss their performance review, they wanted to know first thing what their raise was going to be before they heard about their performance. It's like, oh, and it's done by different people. Interesting. Okay, then that is one way to keep them separate. And recognition among peers could replace high increase expectations, feeling validated and valued as priceless. You know, recognition programs are really valuable. They are sometimes a little bit difficult to get going at your organization, but man, they really do help people feel appreciated. Okay,
that was awesome, by the way.
What? I didn't get to see it. Bummer, I missed it. What happened?
It was a highlight.
It'll be in the playback.
Okay. We don't do performance reviews. We do regular check-ins that are much less formal but still documented. We also consciously separate check-ins from salary discussions. I think that is a beautiful thing if you can do it. I think that's great. And if, of course, it goes along. The part of what I didn't mention was the whole thing about fire the performance reviews. It sounds like several people have already gotten to where they're not doing the annual process, they're doing the regular thing, which tends to be a little bit more effective in talking to people about their performance. So, Miss Shannon, you ready?
Yeah. So, so new question, slightly different topic. So, what about pay equity or internal equity related to annual increases? So, this is a question that we've had before, and we strongly suggest that someone, whether it's the person who's wearing the HR hat for the organization, but someone take some time to review the proposed pay increases before they're shared with staff. If it's going to be, something other than a COLA adjustment or, everyone receiving the same kind of spread the peanut butter salary increase. So if there's a chance that the pay increases could be different between people, then have someone with a more objective lens take a look at that and just, at least gut check it and see, does this make sense? Are, people in similar jobs receiving the same type of increase, supervisor, manager, people, being supervised by the same people and managed by the same people? What do their increases look like? If you have race and gender information, take a look at that from a legal pay equity perspective, and see if there's anything odd that shows up for you. And then, work with managers. The big part of this is talking with the people who are making the pay increase decisions about fairness and equity, trying to be objective, having those conversations with those folks and to set them up for success in this process. Whether it's some of the partners getting together to make those pay increase decisions, or the managers have more direct influence and control in making those decisions. But it can be a little awkward sometimes to have those kinds of conversations with the people who are making pay decisions, but well worth it if you can have some peace of mind that the process was as objective as possible, and there's nothing unintentional, even kind of funny going on around that. Oh, what about adjustments for H-1B? Yeah. Who's running into that? Is anyone having to, besides Sherry, that's in the chat? Sherry, you want to say a little more about that to the group? Oh, wait, Sherry, were you the one who didn't have, your mic wasn't working?
Yeah,
Somebody,
she at the beginning. Yeah.
sorry about that. Well, is there anything more you want to add about it in the chat? Not that, since you can't speak to it, I'm sorry.
Yes.
She's probably typing furiously right now. Oh, you've got a new structural engineer. Does anyone else have any H-1B employees?
We don't currently, but we have in the past, and we had to really make sure that the salary offered was like, there are requirements for what you can pay certain positions, and we had to look at that real closely. But we were able to do merit bonuses for any difference in what the person felt, felt they were worth earning versus what we had to officially pay them in order to be within the range. So there are easy enough workarounds.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing that. Is anyone else doing anything similar to that? For those of you who also have H-1B staff? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and keep going.
I had a really quick question for Carrie about the H-1B engineer. Does that the requirements don't take into consideration total cash compensation? They don't worry about bonuses?
I think there was a timing thing that made it work out okay.
Ah, okay.
I think based on when they were hired and when we actually, like there was a time frame, we paid them the salary we had to, and then there was a different time frame for the bonuses, and it all worked out in the long run, but it was a bit of a process.
I bet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and what's interesting is the next slide question actually is, what about bonuses? And obviously, Carrie, you were just giving a specific example related to the H-1B situation. But, some organizations offer bonuses to staff, right? And usually when they do that, it's around the same time as the annual salary adjustments are announced or given. And so we also suggest considering reviewing those bonus payouts, with that similar sort of equity lens, meaning, does everyone performing similar work? Do they have the same sort of bonus targets? Trying to avoid individualized bonus targets if at all possible. There are obviously special circumstances that pop up, come into play for people and have to be considered. But also thinking about, how are the bonuses decided? Is it tied to a profit sharing component, right? So tied to, corporate performance. Is there an individual component? We talked about that. Like individual performance can come into play for bonuses, or maybe project-based. How well did someone complete projects, and the bonus is tied to that. We really advocate trying to be as objective around those as possible, establishing what those metrics are, and then assessing back against that. Doing the best to avoid what we call the black box, right? That it's not clear to employees why they're getting the bonus or what they did to influence company performance or their own accomplishments that led to that bonus. So, we advocate being as transparent as possible around that. Transparency, as we know, is a spectrum. So we're not going to be fully transparent like saran wrap, but try to be as clear as possible related to those objectives and what it is that help people get that bonus. And in that way, it has a lot more meaning for them. There was a study done basically that was, people didn't understand the meaning around their pay, that they, after basically what was it? I think within a month of them receiving their bonus, they no longer appreciated it. It was just, it was not better than neutral. And so it's like, okay, we really have to do our best to try to connect, pay to that reasoning for them to see that line of sight. And just one other thought on this is that if there are any sort of salary inequities, those can impact bonuses if bonuses happen to be a percent of salary. So be thinking about it, as you're looking at perhaps looking at proposed bonus amounts for people, and looking again from an internal equity perspective. Salary can influence those bonus amounts as well if they happen to be tied back to salaries. So the black box is just the mystery. It's just a metaphor. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. That it's a mystery. People don't quite understand how decisions are made or what their bonus is paid on, and so it's just a mystery. So we want to avoid the mystery of that. Try to be as transparent as possible. And then, prior to this industry, I do not recall a bonus being a thing. So it does depend. Some industries rely a lot on bonuses, others do not. And bonuses can, also be dependent upon level within the organization, so some jobs just may not be eligible for a bonus and others are in a particular organization. Anything else on bonuses? Comments or questions? Nancy, did you want to add something?
Well, I was thinking about that, I'm sorry, I can't remember who said it, about the idea of doing bonuses and merit with the annual pay adjustments. And when what Sherry said about not being a thing, it's like there are definitely organizations that only pay the annual cost of living adjustment and that's it, and people know they're not going to get a bonus. And I just wondered, what's the difference in terms of motivation with people for that? What was the experience that you had when there were no bonuses and now you're in a place where there are? How do you see the difference in employee reception to that? And I guess I'm speaking with Sherry, who brought it up.
Oh yeah, manufacturing.
Yeah.
Yeah, manufacturing is another industry where perhaps management might receive bonuses, but not at the staff level. Okay, let's go ahead and go to our next question. So we've talked a lot about giving pay increases to employees, but when is it the right decision not to give an increase, to withhold an increase for an employee? And so, generally this is going to be around performance. So if an employee is on a performance improvement plan or some type of performance warning, then most organizations say that employee is ineligible for an increase until they come off that performance improvement plan or PIP. So that's the most likely scenario. Usually in those situations, employers, if they do, the employee works their way kind of off that performance improvement plan, and the employer decides to go ahead and give them the increase, employers usually just make that effective, the date that the person is coming off the performance improvement plan. They don't go all the way back retroactive to when everyone else got their pay increase. So they focus more on like moving forward from that once performance got back on track for the person. And so the other thing to think about is what's in your handbook or your HR policy around pay increases. So, if it's something that's not mandated by a collective bargaining agreement or something like that, then it's like, okay, well, what's in your handbook? Because that then becomes the governing document that you have around pay increases and what, if they're considered discretionary in your handbook or whatever the case might be. So just something to be thinking about. And there's some chatter in the chats around bonuses back on that particular topic.
Popular question.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And it seems like getting the first bonus was very popular and not all that prevalent until people came into this industry, which that's kind of interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I did not know tellers did not receive bonuses. Given that they're a front position, that's sad to me.
It might depend. Some of the banks that I've worked with have done smaller bonuses for tellers based on new accounts and things like that. But yeah.
So, and Sherry made a good point. It might be the company's position with taxes that drives bonuses. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Carrie, a turkey or a ham, really?
Well, they're in the grocery industry. What are you going to do, right? So,
oh goodness.
Yes. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. You can enjoy a ham, but you cannot spend a ham. So, yeah. Well, still thinking about money. So what about counter offers? We talked a little bit about earlier, Nancy talked a little bit about the labor market, and, in some employers have had to furlough or lay people off or ask for salary reductions. Other employers over this past year have been busier than ever. And so really it's just, there's no telling. And so even in this very interesting last year, employers were still running up situations where employees were coming to them saying, hey, I just got a job offer from, employer XYZ, and they're going to pay me $5,000 more a year. If you can't match or beat that, I'm out of here. Right. So, that kind of situation becomes very interesting for the employer. Nancy likes to refer to those as the ransom job offer, where, it's like, oh, great. Now what? Right. You do kind of get held hostage in that situation. And I don't know about you, but when I was working in-house, I had one person who I felt like they came to me all the time. Like every month they had a new job offer for us to try to counter. And it's like, how many times do you want to go through that feeling, right, of being held hostage by somebody? So with the tight labor market, though, it's gonna continue to be a situation for everyone. So just a few things perhaps to think about is, as you consider that situation, if you're in that boat, is the person that you're talking with, are they a truly valued employee? Do they have a skill set that if they walked out the door, that's going to cause physical pain to everyone? Or are they critical to a project that's being worked on, right? And so thinking about those things, really for me, that always meant like, okay, I might go once on the counteroffer, and then I'd be thinking, all right, what are we going to do next time this happens? Is there another employee we need to like ramp their skills up? So if the person who keeps, wanting to hold us hostage leaves, it's not going to cause physical pain. It's like thinking about what can you do to prepare for the next time, so you could actually just say no, and not feel like you're going to be held hostage again by that individual. Nancy, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah. The other part about this is what you said about doing it once. What do I want to do next time? And the problem is, once you start it, it's almost impossible to stop. But like, I worked with someone, the person who actually gave me the phrase, and what she told me was that their people were so accustomed to getting a counteroffer that they just would go out and look for work to get the counteroffer and come back because they knew they were going to get paid. And that's just the way that they were boosting their pay. And that's truly a ransom, because you get held hostage all the time.
Yeah, that speaks to, an organization deciding they're going to have a policy, and the policy is never. They will never go with a counteroffer. I don't like to say never, and I don't like to say always, but that might just be a policy decision to avoid it. I'm curious about. There's a question in from Kurt. Is there a next time for multiple counteroffers? Do you really want that person as an employee? Yeah, Kurt. Right. Like, what's their attitude like at work? If they're just constantly shopping for more money, are they really engaged? Are they doing a great job? So.
Yeah, and
so
Judy,
how many of you run into this too? I'm wondering.
Oh, sorry, I was going backwards in the chat. But
yeah, not yet.
Yeah,
let's finish this up. So, so Sarah's saying, I always understood counter offers as a way for the employee to boost the offer at a new place. Yeah. Keep them at their current job. Yeah, having a limit. You're willing to go up 4% of the, up to 4% of the person's current salary or something like that, for example. Yeah, that kind of blackmail only keeps someone happy for a few months, then they're unhappy again. I'm telling you, it was like clockwork. I had this financial analyst that would show up in my office like every month with a new counteroffer. And finally, I just talked to the leader for the area, and it was like, can we just officially say no, and we're never doing this for him again? If he's that unhappy, he can leave. By the way, we did that. Annie, shut up. Not that we are recording this, so that was kind of rude of me to say it that way. But he stopped complaining, and he's still there at that company many years later. So there was a question. Now we'll go back. There was a question, Judy, thinking about spot bonuses. So Judy, you're asking a question in the chat, really great, about spot bonuses. Is it good to announce, who got a spot bonus to everyone? I would think those who didn't get a bonus might feel a little jealous. It's a little like the employee of the month situation or the employee of the quarter situation. There are a lot of people who do great things, and for whatever reason, other people don't see it, or other people do see it, but it just doesn't get recognized through a spot bonus or an employee of the month kind of situation. And so a lot of the data shows that actually those types of things made public are a detriment. They're a detractor. That often the person who's getting called out positively is embarrassed, and everyone else who's looking on feels left out. And so that seems like a no-win for everyone. So the thinking being with spot bonuses, perhaps, do those just one-to-one privately kind of a situation. And there's a lot of research now. I don't know if anyone's even doing like employee of the month or employee of the quarter anymore, but there's a lot of research saying that's not a good recognition strategy. So any other questions about either counteroffers or bonuses, spot bonuses, before we move on? Okay, if you think of them, throw them in the chat and we'll get back there and answer them. So next question, little different topic. What's the right wage for an employee? So we've talked a lot about pay increases, bonus amounts, counter offers, but what's the right wage for an employee? And we suggest trying to figure out what would be, a range based on what's happening in your market. So basically establishing some sort of pay range for each of your jobs. And that gives you some guardrails to work within in terms of setting pay for new people who are coming on board, responding to counteroffers if you decide you're going to respond once. You have an established pay range and you're trying to work within that. And that pay range can be established using published survey data. A lot of survey data is low cost or even free, depending on where you look. And so it is possible to get that information from reputable sources and use that to help establish that range for each job. And then, once you've got that, then it really is developing a process or if you already have one, to figure out, the relevant experience of employees and then placing people into that pay range. So, when you think about pay decisions, do you want to consider the prior experience that people bring with them into, your organization when they're starting with your organization? Does that count? What about, additional education? So maybe the job requires a bachelor's degree, but the person has a master's degree and it's valuable to the organization that they have a master's degree. Does that go into or factor into the decision about what to pay someone? So thinking about, the different factors that might come into play, how long they've been with your organization as well, not just their prior experience, obviously, but their experience with your organization. All those different factors can really be used to try to figure out that placement within the pay range. And I know Carrie mentioned when we met with her prior to this, when we were planning this webinar, that employers have really been trying to get creative with benefits. It's not always just about, and this came up earlier, it's not always just about salary, thinking about the full benefits package. And that can come back to, philosophically, what makes sense for your organization related to salaries and how much do you want to leverage salary versus benefits, right? So thinking about how competitive you are in the market, maybe there's an organizational decision to really emphasize benefits and push those forward, kind of lead the market with benefits, and then just be right in the middle related to salaries. Be right in the middle of the market for salaries. You don't want to do anything extravagant, anything, just be reasonably competitive, but push those benefits. And that way there's, salary isn't a negative thing. It's still, you feel competitive, but the benefits really can help close the deal for you as you're, attracting and retaining staff. So it does all fit together. Okay, thanks, Nancy. So thinking about setting pay, this is just a graphic to really think about longer term establishing, relationships between overall job performance, not the merit matrix idea, but just overall sustained job performance, time in job or experience, and pay. And if you already have pay ranges, a minimum and a maximum established, if you will, for your different jobs, or it's something you're thinking about doing, then it becomes a question about how do you want to use those ranges long term to set pay for people. And so thinking kind of aspirationally, someone who has been with the organization for, let's say like 5 years, and they came in with several years of experience already. Their overall job performance is strong. then we would expect them to be in at least near the middle of that pay range. And that's represented by 1.00 on the chart that's on the screen right now. So each of those numbers are a compa ratio. All it really is just the ratio of an employee's pay to the middle of the range. So we just expect to see, someone who's been with the organization for a while and or has a lot of experience, maybe they brought with them, and strong performance, be close to paid what's, the market and the middle of the range. People who are newer to the work or, not as strong a performer, paid less, right? It's kind of common sense when you think about it, but it really is about thinking about establishing processes that are consistent when you think about setting pay for people. We're big fans of consistency, especially with the pay equity laws that are in place in so many states around the country, including Washington. So we think about that. All right. So I'm going to pause there and see if anyone has any questions about setting pay or thinking about the market for pay.
Any concerns about what's going to happen the rest of the year?
Yeah.
In terms of finding people and how much you're going to have to pay them. Is pay going up this year, do you think?
Right. Who's got their crystal ball handy? I know. It's been so crazy, right?
Oh, Carrie, good point,
Yeah.
Carrie. You wish you had a crystal ball. Yes, I was
Yes.
thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. We don't generally get our salary reviews done until first quarter, January, February, March. And we all know what was happening January, February, March of 2020. So we didn't make it through our reviews before the world fell apart. And so, our plans got changed midstream. So it ended up being a really odd year. And unfortunately, not everybody was able to get an increase. And, we tried to then make up for it in the new round we just did, but it was that sure threw a wrench in the works. Timing was not good.
No.
Yeah.
But
and you weren't alone, obviously.
Oh no.
There are a lot of people that we spoke with that were in the same boat in terms of they were just in the midst of their process and then what?
Yeah.
Yeah, Marcia, you can believe the comments about how hard it is to attract or retain employees. Sooner or later, there will be pay increases. Yeah.
And I've made the prediction that coming the end of this year is Talent More 2.0. So pay increases usually go with that for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask, you talked a little bit about creative benefits or, making a more robust benefits. Have you seen anything really unusual come across that any of your clients are offering in a benefits package, something non-standard that you think is worth mentioning? Just curious. I saw one in a job advertisement, so I'm just wondering.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Nancy, I'm wondering if you want to advance to our general question mark slide.
Oh, there we go. Sorry.
Moving into that, so it's perfect. So I'll share something that we're seeing more of, and then Carrie, if you want to share the one you saw. What we're seeing more of is more options for time off for people.
Yeah. Okay.
So, obviously, around
time off?
like parental leave, specialty, personal days, development days, like not like if they want to take classes and things like that, that it's paid time to go do that. But yeah, a lot more happening in that paid time off bucket. We're seeing more of that popping up consistently, not just with one employer here and there, but overall. Nancy, what were you going to add?
We've had more customers. I think I've seen a slight uptick in people doing the unlimited PTO.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
not much, not anywhere near what I thought it would be by this time. But then again, we didn't think we'd have a pandemic, so yeah. And then Charlie has a question and a comment.
Yeah. So group long-term care insurance. So for those of you that are in Washington, you, I'm sure, are well aware that Washington has a new law related to long-term care and a new payroll tax associated with that. So there's been a lot of activity, a lot of noise around group long-term care plans. And there are a lot of insurance companies, we've been learning, that don't want to offer group long-term care plans. And now, one thing that we saw with the Washington State, the short-term, the PFML, sorry, the short-term disability program is that most carriers don't want to offer group short-term disability to Washington employers now either. So we're wondering what's going to happen with the long-term care market here in Washington as a result of that. And Carrie, I know we got a couple more things in the chat, but I want to come back to you with the thing you saw related to benefits, and then we'll go back to the chat.
I saw pet insurance offered to employee pets, and I thought that's an interesting angle. Yeah.
Well, especially in companies that are pet friendly, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the first time I had seen that as a listed employee benefit. It's like, wow, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've been seeing pet insurance as something more employers are offering. And then Judy's saying their firm has started unlimited PTO for certain levels and above, certain grade or job levels and above get the unlimited PTO. Has anyone else heard about something or doing something, considering something unusual or new, just new to your organization you want to pop in the chat?
We don't we don't have it, but I've often considered a floating holiday. Have our standard set ones and then a floating one. We allow slight swapping, if somebody would rather take one versus the other, because that's just nice to do. But I've considered a floating PTO or holiday, take your birthday off, or, just one extra, just for fun. But haven't quite got there yet.
I see nodding. Carol's nodding. I was just going to reflect on that. I also want to call out that we're almost at time.
Okay.
So
yes, we are.
I do want to be a good steward of everyone's time. Okay. So Nancy, why don't you just flick to the last slide if you don't mind? Judy's affirming you, Carrie, to go with the floating holiday.
A +1, just Yes.
Exactly right. So Nancy and I just want to thank you very much for your time. If you have any other questions, please feel free to just shoot us an email or give us a call, and we're happy to answer any questions that might have popped into your mind later after you've had a chance to digest this information. So
yes, and
thank you very much.
We're clearly a pet-friendly organization because we have Shannon's dogs on her avatar. We each have our own avatar. So
yes.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you both. Thank you for doing this for us. Thank you for taking questions, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks for inviting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well,
our pleasure.
Thank you very much.
With that, we'll close the recording.